Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Generic Garage. On the last episode, we got the heads put on the 331, which means that now we need to get the 306 out of the Ranger. We need to get the push rods that I purchased from Menton installed on the 331, and we need to talk about some valve covers that I ordered from Summit Racing and some of the issues that we run into with these first-gen Rangers and the AC box. Stick around. So let's see here. What do we got to do? We got to
drain the coolant,
drain fluids, drain coolant, yeah. Disconnect exhaust, disconnect electronics, take off the front accessories. Hopefully we can, I think I got this all designed so that we can just pull that up and over, okay, not lose the Freon charge. Remove the radiator. Loosen motor mounts, probably drop the exhaust. I don't remember. I think dropping the exhaust is the better way to do this. Mm-hmm. And then get the engine hoist on here.
This has to come off so you can get on there with the plate?
I don't use a plate. We use bolts at the heads.
Okay.
So we'll get a bolt back there and a bolt over here, and We'll get it up and out. And I really want to leave the transmission in so I don't have to mess with any of those connections, because that's a hydraulic clutch and all the oil in there. So we'll try to unbolt it, and I think I've gotten the transmission in and out before, and the engine in and out before, with the transmission staying in place. So okay, we'll get started draining fluids. Yeah, let's get to it. All right, while we're letting that coolant drain, let's talk about these valve covers and some of the clearance issues on the first-gen Rangers with the AC box. So you can see here, these are like some stock Ford valve covers. They're aluminum. They have the breathers on the exact same side. If I was to take this valve cover off and rotate it around over here, you can see the hole at the back would end up at the hole at the front. That's a little frustrating because on these first-gen Rangers, your AC box gets in the way when you do the V8 swap. You end up having to cut a lot out, and it reduces the flow of air through the evaporator, and the AC is really just not as good as it could be. So I went on to Summit, and I searched for a while and looked for just some steel valve covers that didn't have holes in them, that were tall. I wanted steel specifically because I can weld steel. I can't weld aluminum. To do that, I'd have to spend another $600-700 and get the TIG set up for the welder and get a new bottle of gas. And anyways, Summit sells a tall aluminum valve cover with inserts where you can put baffles, and apparently they come with a set of baffles, and there's no holes in the top of the valve covers. So that means when we get the motor in here, we won't run into this issue of having a hole at the back and having to have the breather at the back. They'll be a little bit taller, but we can move the holes to the front on both sides. So that's gonna go a lot better. But those are on back order, and they're probably not gonna be here until the beginning of June, end of May. But at that time, we'll end up redoing this this side of the AC box to try to get more airflow through there, less cut away. Yep. All right, looks like that coolant's just about done. we're making some progress. That's all loose. What? We gotta separate the transmission.
Transmission, the exhaust. You got your linkage over here still. What about your fuel lines feeding from the back?
No, fuel line's disconnected. We gotta take off the linkage. We gotta separate the tranny, and we gotta do the exhaust. Loosen up the motor mounts. Pull the remote oil filter stuff. That might be easier to just pull off with the motor. I think I had to cut those. Those are barb fittings on there. Although they spin freely, you can't really get a wrench in there. We'll probably just undo that and pull that whole thing with it. Should put those back on. And then we'll be pulling this motor out pretty quick here. Check out what just showed up from Amazon though. Yeah, open that up.
The grand reveal.
Ta-da! Oh, those are gonna look so good in the Ranger. All right, we'll get those installed later on when we get that motor in. Those are mine, you get your own. All right, back to it. All right, we are to the point where we need to start unbolting the transmission from the motor. And before we do that, we want to make sure that the rear of the motor and the front of the transmission are supported. So to do that, what I like to do is grab a ratchet strap, wrap it around one side of the frame and hook it onto itself, run it underneath the transmission, wrap it around the other side of the frame and hook it onto itself again, ratchet it nice and tight, and that way that point where it's going to try to separate will be suspended on the ratchet strap. Well, I thought I was going to be able to do this without taking the transmission out, but I could get this bolt off, but this bolt way up here, that's touching the firewall. We dropped the motor mounts real quick just to see if we could drop the motor any lower, and we cannot. So now we're definitely gonna have to pull the transmission. Now maybe we could just undo the 4 bolts from the bell housing here, but we might just have to pull the transmission either way because it's gonna be such a pain in the butt to try to get this all lined back up in here anyway. So I think we're gonna unbolt the cross member there, drain it, and take out that drive shaft. Here we go. Well, everyone, it is the next day. I spent the better part of the morning separating the transmission from that old engine and moving some things around and getting that engine put up on that engine stand. So now that everything's kind of cleaned up and out of the way, we can move forward with putting the push rods on this engine. Let's take a look at the ones that we got from Manton. These 4 series push rods from Manton are 5/16 outer diameter with a .118 inch wall, and we went ahead and ordered them at 6.5 inches long. They are made from 4130 and they are melanite processed so that we can use them with our guide plates. You know you have your guide plate in the right position when you can rock the rocker back and forth and you hit the guide plate, but you don't hit the wall of the head where the push rod goes through. And you know you're not going too far left or too far right and having your roller slide off of the valve stem. Once you've got it in position, pull the rocker off, tighten down your stud, and continue doing that for every single one of these push rods. Now that we've gotten our guide plates torqued down, we need to go ahead and set a 0 valve lash for every single one of these valves. In order to do that, we're going to rotate one rod at a time and tighten down its corresponding rocker nut. When we feel just a little bit of resistance on our rod, we're going to stop and move on to the next one. We're going to do this for every single one of these in the engine. Now you're not going to be able to rotate some of them very much because the lifter is in its utmost position. And in order to do this properly, we need to give each lifter a chance to be in its lowest position. Now we know that the camshaft rotates once for every 2 rotations of the crankshaft. So in order to give each lifter a chance to be in its lowest position and set the valve lash to 0, we're gonna have to rotate the engine a total of 2 times. And we're gonna do that 1/4 turn at a time. We're just gonna repeat the process for each quarter turn until we've set each valve at a 0 lash. Once we've set all the valves to a 0 lash, we're going to go back and give each one of the rocker nuts a 1/2 turn just to set a little bit of preload. And that's it. Alrighty everyone, we got everything all tightened down. All of our valve lashes are set and we are good to go. However, it is getting late and I have work tomorrow. So that's gonna be it for this episode. If you like the episode, do me a favor, leave me a comment. More importantly, press that subscribe button. Or if you don't feel like doing that, just press the like button for me. It really helps me out. On the next episode, we need to get the T5 mounted to this thing. We need to get a water pump in here. We need to transfer the ProFlow 4 system over to the engine. So there's still a little bit left to do. And I think that the last thing that we're gonna be waiting on to show up is gonna be those valve covers. And as soon as they show up, we'll get them drilled out and then we'll put them on the motor and we'll get the motor installed in the truck. And then it's all downhill from there. We should be taking the truck out for a run pretty soon. And then shortly thereafter, I'd like to get it on the dyno. Dad said he wants to help me paint the truck, so we're gonna paint it. And we're gonna get the interior done. It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, I will catch you guys on the next episode. Until then, y'all stay safe and have a great week. Bye.